The state school board will be taking up the LGBTQ policy that was very controversial last spring. They are guidelines of how schools should handle gay and transgendered students, protection, privacy issues, and parental involvement when it comes to meeting federal guidelines. And I think that was really interesting because it was a note that Ingrid Jacques from your paper, from the Detroit News, wrote saying that this is going to be coming up again next week. And so I went in and I actually looked at the guidelines and how they have changed and read through them from last spring until now. And I think the one thing that people were looking at is really the parental involvement, and if parents should be spoken to when schools are dealing with how children want to be called and so forth. And I think when you look at it, and I would really encourage people to take a look at this. They have changed the wording a little bit, but not very much. Nolan, have you had a chance to take a look?
Yeah, they still left a huge loophole for not involving parents and not informing parents, and I think that's the fatal flaw of this. You, as I've said before on this show, you shouldn't lose your parental rights simply because your child is transgender. That's the time when a child needs his or her parents, and of course any child might be reluctant to tell their parents, but that reluctance shouldn't be translated into, oh, it's a dangerous environment for the kid. The parents need to be part of this process.
And it does have through this entire 8-page thing, it does keep repeating that parents are very important to the process, but they're going to take a student-centered approach, and then they did change this word, saying with the parents as well, except in situations where educators are aware that parental knowledge might threaten the student's safety and or welfare. Yeah. Is that fair?
Well, it's not just fair, it's super important. I mean, there are lots of cases, individual cases, where kids who are transgender end up being abused or kicked out by parents who are unable to deal with that. And I think the school has to be able to accommodate for that. I don't think you make all the policy exclusively around that, and I don't think this does this. This says that parents should be involved, except in those cases.
But it doesn't specify how you determine whether it's just the student's word, whether they're going to do a home evaluation. You know, it's too big a loophole. I don't think it changes anything for the better.
And it says everything is looked at a case-by-case basis, and I guess when you look at this, these are guidelines. These are saying, schools, this is something for you to take a look at. This is not any kind of mandate of any sort.
That's right. I mean, and you look, this is the board trying to deal with a pretty thorny issue, I think, in a progressive way, and that's really what the pushback is against it. Underneath this question about parents is really an anti-inclusion narrative that
I think that's
do you think
unfair.
It's an anti-inclusion?
Well, I'll ask you. You've got 3 young kids. If one of your kids went to school and decided to change their gender, and you weren't told about it, how would you feel?
I wasn't told. You mean that they would just go to the office and say?
That's which is what they can do now.
You know, I
mean, it's about parents, and I think it's unfair to say it's about hatred or exclusion or whatever.
Well, we have
it's
examples
about
of that hatred.
It's
not
about
like I just pulled out of the air.
It's here, and I think when you say, yeah, it's guidelines. Well, the federal government issues these kind of guidelines all the time, and they become mandates because the funding's tied to them.
All right. Well, we'll see what the conversation is up in Lansing next week.